All right, hello and welcome everyone. We're glad you could join us today. I'm Andrew Deaver and I'm the marketing manager here at Mozenda. Today we'll talk about high volume scraping. Shane Whitlock, one of our expert training consultants, will be taking us through the process of extracting large amounts of data quickly and effectively. Thanks for joining us today, Shane.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Andrew. I'm excited to do this with you today.
Great. Well, to start, I'd like to offer a high-level overview of what we'll be discussing today and why it's important. So the very basic steps today can be summarized by research, building agents, and test and optimize. Now, for some of you this may seem a little bit obvious, but I hope you'll have a better idea of why these things are crucial by the time we're done today. So let's dig a little bit deeper into these topics. So first, research. Now, obviously, the research phase involves defining the project needs, investigating a website, and planning out how to build an agent. What's important about this is that it sets the stage for everything we'll need to do later. After that, we'll talk about building agents. Even if you're already familiar with building agents, we'll cover some of the best practices for handling the architecture of an agent, how to deal with website navigation, and more. Finally, we'll discuss how to test and optimize everything. So this is critical because in order to handle errors that occur on a website, improving the speed of an agent, and how using things like indexing can deliver results to you much faster. These are all very important things that we'll also be covering. And so what we hope you get out of this is that you can avoid some of the issues that can get in the way of using Mozenda successfully. So first off, if data isn't coming to you as quickly as you need or the data isn't complete, this can happen as a result of skimping out on some of these steps that we'll be covering. And you risk unusable results. So next, going back to edit an agent constantly, by rebuilding or changing agents, can be very time-consuming. So try to do it right the first time and then go back and make those minor adjustments only as needed. And lastly, in addition to taking longer to complete, unoptimized agents can also use up extra page credits. So ultimately, we hope today's presentation will help you avoid these potential problems and keep you on track to being successful with Mozenda. So today's use case that we'll use is in this presentation is a fictional digital consultancy that has been contracted to gather data on members of the United States Congress. So this includes names, party affiliation, years served, sponsored legislation that they've been involved with, and so on. So I'll have you keep in mind that although the agents used in this presentation that Shane is about to show us are based on this use case and the agents are built for this website, congress.gov, the methods and practices we'll be discussing today can be applied to any given website used in a project. So with all of that clear, I'll go ahead and turn the time over to Shane. Let me go ahead and also send that over to you.
All right, thanks, Andrew. Okay, so as Andrew said, we've got this congress.gov website where we want to come and pull all of the different Congress members as well as the legislation that they've sponsored and co-sponsored. I've previously built a standard agent, not really optimized for high volume like this presentation is about, and we're hoping to optimize this agent further on. So this might be something, if you're just starting out with Mozenda, you should be able to build, or at least with the help of our help center, be able to build something like this. So we'll kind of walk through this at the beginning. We're starting just from congress.gov. We've got this click item here that takes us to page 2 that clicks on Show All Members. When that's clicked, we're going to come to a list of all of the members, and in this digital consultancy, we decided that we needed to show 25 items per page, as well as to sort these by U.S., state, or territory. Again, I kind of just did this. It's not really going to make a difference in the data that we're pulling, but maybe in some of the use cases that you have, you'll need to use these set user inputs like this. So I put these in so that we could further illustrate that. We're capturing each representative's name here, and then we have a name value pairs list capturing the state, district, party served, or party and term served. And the reason that we use the name value pairs list is in case they put in more descriptions and labels here. And also you can see, for example, this member has district and this one doesn't. So the name value pairs list is able to handle that more variable data. After we've captured this top level data from page 1, we have this click item here that clicks on the representative's name and takes us to page 3. And then this is where we're just going to capture each of the pieces of legislature that this member of Congress has either sponsored or co-sponsored. And as you can see, there's a lot of pieces here. So 1,600 for this one member of Congress. And if we look back here, we've got over 2,000 members of Congress. So it's going to end up being a lot of data. If we look at our web console, let me bring that over. If we look at our web console, we can see that this agent, if we go to the jobs view and select that job and look at the job statistics, we can see that this agent has added 3,000 items before I paused it. And it looks like it took just over 15 minutes, or just about 15 minutes. So that's pretty good, 3,000 items in 15 minutes. That's pretty fast. But with the 2,000 members of Congress, and who knows how many pieces of legislature per each one, if we stayed on this same track and each of the members were about the same speed and had the same number of pieces of legislature, we would end up taking about 120 hours to complete this. We've went through 4 members of Congress out of the 2,000, and so kind of extrapolating that time, it would take 120 hours to complete this scrape. Luckily, with Mozenda, there's a better way to capture all of this data. So, as Andrew said, there are a few steps that we want to do in order to optimize this agent. And we're going to show some of these things so that we can make this agent both faster as well as a little bit more reliable and also easier to debug. With these high volume agents, it's really critical that you're able to debug them easily. I've been on a lot of support cases and worked with a lot of clients that are trying to scrape hundreds of thousands of pieces of data. And when an error happens, if you don't have some of the critical information, it's really hard to figure out, what went wrong or how to fix that problem. So as Andrew said, the first step is to research the website. And this is the first step that I take whenever I'm building any agent. I'll just load up the website, and we started from just congress.gov. So a few things that we're going to do while we're researching the website is we want to learn the website structure, the page layout, the pagination style, and then any gotchas or any tricky parts that might come up. So when I say we want to research the website structure, we want to be looking at how you navigate from page to page in the website, and especially noting how the URL changes. The reason we want to see if the URL changes is because if the URL can be copied and pasted somewhere else, we know that we can essentially copy and paste that URL and use it in Mozenda, whether that's in a load page or the starting page address, starting website address. If we can copy and paste the URL, we can use it there. So in our agent, we're starting at congress.gov, then we click Show All Members. And you can see that when we do that, the URL changes to congress.gov/members. So from that piece of information alone, we can see that we can copy this URL and we can eliminate this whole page 1 from our agent. We can get rid of this click item and save not only the one page credit, but also save some potential for problems that might come up. So we could just change our starting web address there. Let's see if we can further change this URL though and dig deeper into the website before we start our agent. So if you remember, we had the set user inputs to show only 25 items per page. So I'll make that change, and we can see that the URL again changes to say page size equals 25. This parameter is going to be really useful because then we don't have to use that set user input, especially if that were inside of the begin item list. If you had to change that set user input every time, that introduces a big area for problems to happen. You have to wait after that change takes place for the page to load. As you can see, this wait for Ajax. And so oftentimes you'll see that the page doesn't wait long enough, and you might run into an error. Either the item list was not found, or even a website error. And then sort by, we can change that as well to state to match our agent. So as you can see, we've got this nice URL here that gets us, it removes one page of actions from the agent, and it also removes these two actions that have to wait for Ajax and could introduce problems. So if we can start our agent from this URL, it's already going to save us some time and some potential difficulties later on. So let's go ahead and do that, the first step in optimizing the agent. We'll copy the URL from the browser and go back to the agent builder. And we can right-click on page 1 and choose properties, or just double-click. And we'll paste the new URL over the old starting website address and click Save. So this little pop-up is just saying that there's some kind of different syntax here because we used the name value pairs list before the click item. We're going to address that later on. So as you can see now, we've got our page size equals 25, page sort equals state, and showing the members here on page 1. So we can get rid of this click item that was taking us to this page. Right-click, delete. We'll say OK. And then something that I use a lot, that I think a lot of users of Mozenda might not be aware of, is that you can actually copy and paste actions from here. So I'm going to click on these two, set user inputs, we don't need anymore. So if I hold in Shift on my keyboard, press the down arrow key, I can select both actions, and then we'll right-click and delete those two actions because they're being handled by the URL and no longer needed. And then we'll do the same thing, hold in Shift and the down arrow, and we'll highlight all of the actions on page 2, Control X to cut the actions, and then we can paste them here on page 1. So now what was on page 2, or what was page 2, has essentially become page 1 of our agent. You can see our click item. It holds the state of the actions that it goes to, so it's going to page 3 still. There is nothing going to page 2, and so we can delete page 2. So we've already made some progress. We took our agent from 3 pages to 2, and that's something to be happy about. So the next thing that we need to do in doing some research of the website is to look at the page layout. So let me just pull up the website again. And now that we understand our website structure and have identified a starting URL, let's go into the page layout. And it looks like we have some top-level information about each member of Congress here on the first page. If we click on the Congress member, we can see more details and the legislation passed. Looking at a few different members, we should see that this data is pretty consistent. You want to do this with all of the agents that you build. So if we look here, we can see we've got the list of legislation. We've got the name, or maybe like a number, and then the sponsor that we're capturing. If we go back to the previous page, and look at all of the members, and we'll scroll down and look at another, we can see it's basically the same layout. So it looks like we shouldn't have any problems with the data being consistent. And I think the way that we have the agent set up right now, it should be pretty good for us. One other thing, if I didn't emphasize this enough earlier on, the name value pairs is really valuable here, and it can be valuable in a lot of different settings or different agents or types of agents that you're building. Whenever you have a list of attributes, for example, computers, when you're shopping for computers online, you'll often see like the RAM, the hard drive, the screen size, and a whole bunch of different attributes, labels, and values. Your name value pairs list is going to be key there because you don't know when they're going to throw in another name value pair. So in this case, they might put in like year born or something like that that's just more description that we want to capture. But if we didn't have the name values pairs list, we would never know that it came up. So I think our page layout is looking pretty good. And then lastly, we want to look at the pagination of the website. So there are a few key things that we want to look at with the pagination, mainly the first page of data, the last page of data, and then the places where the page numbers end. So for example, here you can see 5. What happens when we click on 5? Does it show page 6 and so on? Or do we need to click on something else to bring up those other page numbers? Pagination can be really tricky, and that's where we see a lot of problems with our agents. So if we look at page 1, some things to look out for is, are there these next buttons on page 1? The reason why we want to look and see if there's next buttons on page 1 is because if we set our XPath or set our page list action to work off of the next page link, our XPath could be saying, find the 5th list item here, because these are probably all going to be list items. If we inspect the source here, we'll see that they're actually A tags. So if we just set our XPath to look at this next button, Mozenda might say, okay, look for the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6th A tag that contains the word next. And then if we go to page 2 and it puts the previous button there, our next button would no longer be the 6th A tag. Now it would be the 7th. So you need to look out for that. Make sure if they do put the previous page links, or if they don't, that your XPath will be able to handle that on pagination. Next, we would want to look at the last page of the data. So we'll click on this, go to the last page. And here you want to look and see, do these next page links, when we get to the last page, are they disabled? Are they hidden? Or are they the exact same as they were on previous pages? If your agent seems to be running for longer than you think it should, or if you're getting a lot of duplicate data, it could be because this next page button, when you get to the last page, is still there and Mozenda keeps clicking on it, thinking that it's still a valid page lister. So if we look at this one, we can see that the real buttons are A tags, and then the currently selected page as well as the next buttons here on the last page are spans. So we should be safe in this case. But you're not always going to be safe. So you want to do this every time you build an agent, especially these high-volume agents. Lastly, with the pagination, it looks like we can capture the current page. So let's do that with the XPath. So if we go back into our agent, and we go to page 1 here, we'll click on the current page, say capture text. And then it's asking us to give that a field name. we'll call it current page. So what we want to do here, and you can see our XPath is saying to look at span 4. And it's not always going to be span 4. Right now it's looking at 1, 2, 3, 4. Instead of that, we want to give it more of a custom XPath. So we want to say, look at the span that contains the class, or that's class is equal to selected. So that should give us our current page. And let me just double check that. And we'll go div that has a class of pagination. So I'm looking right here in the DOM. We're looking for div with a class equal to pagination, and then the span with the class of selected. And then we'll put that into our item list. And sorry about that. Forgot to put the attribute signs. So if we look at our captured text preview, we can see our current page is 1. If we right-click on the page list and select Execute, our current page in the captured text preview should change to 2. It looks like it just hasn't updated yet. So there we go. The current page is 2 now. So that's really important and really crucial, especially in these high-volume agents, so that you can monitor your progress as you go. If you're getting a lot of data, but your page numbers aren't changing, you might want to look at that and see, are the page numbers working, or am I cycling through the same number of pages? Maybe I'm stuck in a loop. You can also go to the website and go to the last page and see that there are 90 pages overall. And so you'll want to go and look at your data and see that you've got, if you're on page 87, you know that you're close to finishing. So these sorts of debugging information, they might not be usable in your output, but they're definitely needed as you're building the agent. The other piece of debugging information that you would want to get is the total number of items. So we'll click and capture that text as well. So this is nice. We're showing 26 through 50 of 2240. All right. So researching the site has helped us to identify some key data points that we want to capture, as well as helped us find the best way to paginate. But we still haven't gotten to how we can speed this agent up. So that's really the main thing that we want to do with optimizing these high-volume agents. Other than just getting them set up correctly, we want to get them capturing a lot of data quickly. So the way that we want to do this is we want to make this agent a 2-part agent. What I mean by that is we'll have one agent that captures some high-level data, and then a second agent that's going to capture the details. If we look at the URLs again, when we click on a Congress member, you'll see that the URL changes to have the Congress member's name. So if we take this URL, we copy it, and we paste it into like an incognito tab, we'll see we've got the same information coming up. So we know that this isn't attached to any sort of session. It doesn't matter what we've been doing beforehand. You can always load this agent, or you can always load this URL. So this is really good to know. What we can do is we can capture all of the URLs, and then in a separate agent, load each of those URLs and index it so that it's going faster. So how we'll do that is first we'll create a URL agent. So we're going to get rid of this click item, and we're going to replace it with a capture text that captures the URL. So I'll just right-click and choose Delete on the click item. Choose OK. Click on the name of the member of Congress and choose Capture Text again. And we'll call this field URL. And then to get the URL, you can see in our captured text preview that we still got the name. Right-click, refine captured text, go to the HTML, and then in our capture definition, we'll put the pattern that we're looking for, where we're where we're looking for the href equal to percent URL percent. So we're capturing the URL in the field named URL, and we'll click Save. So now that we've got the URL, oh yeah, go ahead, Andrew.
Yeah, real quick, Shane. So is there a reason that you're leaving it at 25 per page? I mean, I'm sorry if you're about to get to that as far as, since you're going through the optimization. So does it offer the option to choose 100 per page or more that you can just gather in a...
Right. Yeah, so the reason why I'm showing 25 per page this time is to just kind of show that that option is there, where you don't always need to use the set user inputs, but it might actually change the URL. So in a normal agent, let's say like an e-commerce agent where you're capturing pricing data, you might not have a filter of 25 per page, but the filter might be price under $100. And the URL would change to show that. For example, using like choosing House instead of all members of Congress, if you just wanted the members of the House, you would see it changes to Chamber House. I didn't want to do that this time because I wanted to keep the volume of data high. But it would be a similar thing if you only wanted to refine it down to a certain brand of something that you're purchasing, or in real estate if you only wanted to get a certain price range or some other filter there.
Okay.
So yeah, it's just to demonstrate or to illustrate that you can have some of the sorting done in the URL and not have to use click items to do that.
Sure.
Yep, good question though. Sorry I didn't go into that a little bit more. So we've captured the URL, and then the next thing we need to do is just get rid of all of these actions on page 2. So again, we'll highlight them all, and we're going to cut them. So Control X, and then we can paste them into just like a notepad or a sticky note or something like that to use later on. And then once we've gotten rid of those actions, we'll delete page 2. So now we've got our agent here that's capturing all of the URLs. We want to test that and just make sure that we're getting the URLs for each item or each member of Congress. And it looks like it's working for us. We're going through the pages. As you can see now we're on page 2. Our current page is working. And it looks like our URLs are all different. So that looks great. And we'll save this as our first agent. So we'll do save as, and we'll call it Congress-URLs. So once we've saved that agent, we can go back to our web console. And here in Congress URLs, we just want to change some harvesting settings to do not process multiple list items concurrently and maximize the browser window. The reason why we want to do this is maximize the browser window will help us so that if the website goes into a responsive kind of mode, so let's say the site has a mobile version, maximizing the browser window will stop that from happening, and you'll be able to keep your items and your XPath the exact same as when you built the agent. And then do not process multiple list items concurrently. That's going to help us because it's going to keep everything working in order, the order that we've set up here. A a lot of times if you're having problems with your agents in the web console, these two settings are going to help you to fix those problems right off the bat. So we'll click Save. And then we just want to run this agent so that we can get all of our URLs. So once we get the URLs, I think this is more the exciting and fun part. We're going to create our detail agent, and this is where we're going to see a lot of the speed increase. So what we'll do is we'll click File, New, and we're going to start a new agent. And we can start it from this page. And the first action we're going to add is going to be an input list that's going to use the collection of URLs that we've just captured. So if we look for Congress, we'll see our Congress URLs agent here. We'll choose that and click OK. If we double-click on that or right-click and choose Properties, we can see some of the data that we've captured so far. So it looks like it's going pretty fast. We've already got 73 different Congress members. And if we look and refresh it here, yeah, 100. So we've gone through 4 pages so far. We see our URL field. What we're going to do within this begin data list is add an action, and that action is going to be load new page. The URL that we want to use here is just %URL%. So what that means is we're going to use the URL from our agent 1 to load the detail page of those Congress members. So here you can see our first Congress members detail page. And then if we go back to our sticky note, we can take the actions that we've copied and pasted, and we can paste them back into page 2. So now you can see we've got all of the pieces of legislation as well as the sponsor, the name, and the detail like we had in the previous agent. So now we've got this agent going. If we were to test this, we just want to make sure that we're going to be able to pick up some of this information. So it's loading and then paginating through these items. So now to optimize the agent for speed, what we need to do is put an index on this data list. So to do that, we right-click on the Begin Data List, choose Properties, go to Additional Settings, and then we have this option to only include items in this range. So if we say 1 through 10 here, we would only get 1 through 10, the first 10 URLs. So if we click Save, and we look at this data list again, you'll see we're only seeing 1 through 10 here of 367. You could put anything in here, 1 through 10 and then 11 through 20. If we were able to index it like that and create separate agents, we could run all of those agents at once and be able to capture the data very quickly. To kind of simulate that and only use one agent rather than creating multiple, we'll put a parameter in as this value. So if we do percent index %, and the parameter name doesn't really matter, what that's going to do is it's going to use that as a variable. And when the agent runs, it's going to ask us, what does index mean? And then we can put in the parameter value, such as 1 through 100, and then create another job that uses 101 through 200. So I'll show you how that works as we test the agent. So right here at the beginning, it asks, what does the value of index? We can put 1 through 10 here, and then it would just load the first 10 URLs. So we're going to use that to index our jobs and create multiple jobs running on this same website. Before we do that, we just want to make sure that we capture the output of the URLs agent. So if we click select here, you can see like the name, the state, the party, the district, current page, all of these we want to capture as well. So we'll click OK and save. So we can save this agent as Congress details. And we'll change a few settings and then start to index the jobs to capture the data more quickly. So we'll click close, come back to the web console. If we check on our URLs agent, it looks like we've already got 650 of the 2,000. So that's coming along really well. And go back to our Congress agent group, and we'll look at our details agent. So you can see we've got all of our fields here. And if we go to the Jobs tab, we can click New Job. And this is where we'll put in our parameter names and our parameter values. So the parameter name is index, just as we put it in the agent builder. So right here in the properties, additional settings, index. You have to make sure all of the capitalization and spelling are the exact same. But you don't use the % signs in the web console. So we'll say index, and then our parameter value, we could put 1 through 100 or 1 through 1,000. A lot of times you're going to be wondering how many jobs you should make for a specific agent. We have a few things that you need to keep in mind when you do that. So it would be nice if we could have a URL, each URL have its own job running. Then we could potentially have 2,000 jobs running at one time, and it would take, maybe 5 minutes to complete the whole job. Unfortunately, there are a few reasons that we can't do that. One is that every account has a concurrent job limit. So you can see that concurrent job limit in your account settings. If you click on the user icon, go to account settings, you can see here concurrent jobs. So a lot of times that's going to be 10 or 5, 50 or 100, just depending on the type of license that you have. So that's the first limit. And then the next reason that we don't want to have 1,000 jobs going at once on this one website is because we don't want to use up too much bandwidth of that website. We want to be a good internet citizen. We don't want to make the site less responsive for other people. So for these reasons, Mozenda sets a limit for the number of jobs that you can run on a specific domain. And you can see this by changing the view on the job and looking at account job restriction max. So if we go to our Jobs tab, click on this little icon here and choose Edit the Agent Jobs View, you'll see Account Job Restriction Max. If we click Save and scroll over, and we would actually have to start running a job on this first, so we'll go to our URLs agent. And if we look at the jobs here, you'll see that our account job restriction max is 10, although we have 50 concurrent jobs. So the most you can run on congress.gov is 10. So what we'll do is we'll just run 5 at a time on this details agent. So we'll go to Jobs, New Job, and you can name these jobs whatever you'd like. If you don't put anything in there, it will use the default date and time. We'll do first 500 as the name of the job. The parameter name will be index, and the value will be 1 through 500. Click Add, and then Create Job. So once that job has started, click New Job again, and choose or type second 500 or the next name. And then we'll do we'll put index again as the parameter name, and 501 through 1000 as the parameter value, and create job. And you'll continue doing this until you get all of your data. So we'll do third 500, parameter name index, and then if you just want to go to the end, you can put 1001 and then just a dash. The dash means go to the very end of the data list, and create job. So as the job restriction said, you're able to have 10 jobs running at a time on this site. So you could potentially get that job that took about 120 hours originally. If we extrapolated it all out, you could have that going and finish in 12 hours rather than 120, which would really make a huge difference. As you can see here, we've already got 400 items in just 12 seconds. So it's really pretty amazing how fast this can go and how much data you can get, how much time you can save. So it looks like the data is coming in quite quickly, and I think this should be good to go. If we recap what we did in building these high-volume agents, we researched the site, looked at the website structure, how deep to start the agent, how the URLs changed. We looked at the page layout to make sure the data was consistent, looked at the pagination, decided if it would make sense to split this into two separate agents. This same process can be used to capture high volumes of data from other directories like this, from retail sites, and many other types of agents. And as a training consultant here at Mozenda, I use this type of agent structure almost every day to optimize agents for our clients. Andrew, I think that's about it for optimizing the agents. Is there anything you feel like I didn't go over, or you wanted to add?
We are getting a little bit over time, so I want to be respectful of everyone's time here. But no, I appreciate your insight on this topic and all of the information that you were able to show here. Let me go ahead. Was there anything else that you wanted to show, or should I go ahead and switch it back over?
No, you can switch it back. I just hope that our customers will be able to use this in their agent building.
Yeah. Okay. Well, all I really wanted to add was that I'll be sending out a follow-up email with a link to a blog article that will include a recording of this video in case anyone wants to review or share it. And I'll also include a link to download the XML files for the example agents we've used today, including the unoptimized agent as well as the two-part ones that Shane went over just now. So if you download those, you can load them directly into the agent builder if you'd like to see them in action on your own computer. And so, like I said, we are a little bit over, and that's all the time that we have today. But if you have any questions about the material that we've covered, we want to answer them. So please reach out to us by calling the number shown here, 801-995-4550, or by emailing us at support@mozenda.com. And once again, thank you for joining us, and that will be all for today.